I'm married to Martin, who is physically disabled with osteoarthritis and various dry joint conditions, and my son Patrick, who is 8, has severe physical disabilities and global developmental delay as well, and he's epileptic. So he's got a life-limiting, life-threatening condition.
And how old are your other children?
I have Isaac, who's 12, and Daisy, who will be 2 in a couple of months' time. Got my hands full.
What would be your advice to anybody who's a carer and having to look after anybody?
I think my advice would have to be to don't forget to look after yourself. As much as obviously the person you're caring for, is their needs a lot of the time has to come first. That's part of being a carer. But in order to be able to give them the best, I think you have to look after yourself, and that's really, really important. And try as hard as it can be to take a bit of time out. It wasn't very easy for me in the early stages with having Patrick because his medical needs were so intense, and he was having seizures around the clock, and I was really the only person that could deal with that. But over time, as he's settled and I've settled into the role a bit more as well, and my confidence has grown with him, I've been able now to just start to take a little bit of time out for myself, just to recharge the batteries or just de-stress. Or before I had Patrick, I was singing and bands and all my, when I had Patrick, all of that stopped. I couldn't commit to being in a band anymore. And my whole focus was Patrick. And over time, I've actually been able to think, okay, well, that's something I really, really miss. That was part of my identity, was to be able to sing and perform, and I need to get that back. I've joined a choir because there are always ways, I think, you have to make a lot of sacrifices and compromise to make it work sometimes. And my compromise was I can't be a lead singer of a band because that's too much commitment. But I can join a choir because then if I can't make the gig because Patrick is ill or anything, then they're not really going to miss me because I'm one of 100, not one of 6, And me, I personally take just one evening, to rehearse with the choir out a week, and that gives me my time out just to de-stress, and I think it's very therapeutic music anyway, but that's me being me. I don't have to worry about what's going on at home. I leave Patrick in safe hands, and I think since I've done that and since I've been singing again, it's made a massive, massive difference to my life and the family as well. They've got a bit of me back. So yeah, I think it's vitally important just to try and do something for yourself as well as being a carer. Just try and find something that makes you really. I think when Patrick was born, or when he was fine when he was born, but from a couple of months old, when we realised that there were serious problems and he was would have various disabilities, I think the biggest, we went through a grieving process for the child that we thought we were going to have. But in hindsight, I think that was a real turning point. It was important that we went through that. But for me, I grieved properly. I think I broke down in the hospital, and he was in intensive care, and we'd very, very nearly lost him. And we came out the other side of that, and it was like, right, bring it on now. He survived against the odds, so he wants to be here for and he's a strong little man. So what can I do now to make his life worth it, worth that fight, worth every seizure that he has to go through? And before we had Patrick, I was in business. I was a office manager. I'd done human resources. I'd done lots of high pressure jobs. And I think in any situation when you're working, if you get up against it, or you've got a schedule or a deadline to meet, you know, you pull your team in, don't you? And you think, right, okay, well, I need a bit of help here, guys. I've got this, you know, I've got to you know, you reach out to your team, the people that you work with, and say, right, you know, I need you to do this. I need to, you know, you delegate a bit to get the job done. When we got home with Patrick, I was very much like, okay, this is our situation. This is now my job. You know, yes, I'm a mummy, but I'm a full-time carer now. So it's you know, he's got a life-limiting condition. What do I need to do to make it work for myself, for him, and for my other children and my husband? And the answer straight away was, okay, what would I have done if it was any other work situation? It was a delegate. So I did my research. I contacted the local hospices, and there was local community support groups and social networking. And I spent a few days really just phoning round and finding out where the help was, because it wasn't going to come to me. You know, I think when you're in this situation, you know, your child leaves hospital and you're basically left, apart from medical staff, you know, you're left on your own to kind of work things out yourself. And the services cost money, so unless you're really asking about them, you don't tend to hear about them. They're not forthcoming. So I think the early days of just reaching out for help and admitting, actually, this is going to be a real struggle without some help. In doing so, it opens up our minds and our world to, you know, having lots of people in, lots of people wanting to help, lots of people offering advice. And in doing so, we met loads of nice people, we met other families, and we just kind of were able to accept the situation a little bit better because we weren't so isolated. And, you know, my other son, who was 4 or 5 at the time when Patrick was born, was able to meet other children and other families in the same situation. So it wasn't so alien to him, and it wasn't quite so scary because we weren't the only ones. So I think over the years we've just embraced lots of other families and all the services that are out there, and use them to our advantage, and use them, you know, what they're there for. You know, we've got a big team around us now. I'm a full-time carer, and lots of people think, oh, that must be really hard and you do an amazing job, but I don't do it on my own. I've got a team, and we work together. His teachers are part of the team, the medical staff are part of the team, the physios are, you know, and that's how I think of it, really. I think if you're a carer, you have to set any pride aside, and in order to do the best, really, for the person you're caring for and for yourself, you have to ask for help.